The Texas Parks and Wildlife Operation Share a Lone Star Lunker Program. This program is headquartered at the Tyler Fish Hatchery in Tyler, Texas. The program has 4 sponsors: Lone Star Brewery, Honey Hole Magazine, Jungle Labs, and Skeeter Boats. The purpose for this program is to help the Texas Parks and Wildlife do genetic studies on the offspring of 13-pound and larger largemouth bass. The Lunker Program rules requires a hatchery staff member to examine the fish and determine its general condition before accepting it into the program. If the fish is in good condition, the hatchery person informs the fisherman and then discusses the rules about the program. The rules are: number 1, the fish remains the property of the fisherman, although there are access restrictions because of the general nature of the program. Number 2, it's important that the fisherman understand that the fish may die while it's in the hatchery's care for a number of reasons. If the fish does die, it will be wrapped and frozen for the owner or the taxidermist. Number 3, a fiberglass replica is made and given to the fisherman by the sponsor, whether it spawns or not. Number 4, a liability release must be signed by the fisherman before the hatchery person loads the fish onto the truck. After the agreement is signed, the fish can be transported to the Tyler Fish Hatchery. This large female weighs 16 pounds and 2 ounces when it was caught on January the 15th, 1988 by Troy Johnson at Gibbons Creek. Troy put the fish in the boat's live well quickly after catching it and transported it to the nearest marina, where it was weighed and placed in a minivat. While at the marina, he contacted the Texas Parks and Wildlife and asked for assistance. During his wait for the Texas Parks and Wildlife, he made sure that neither he nor anyone else handled the fish any more than they absolutely had to. This clear thinking is one of the main reasons for the fish and its excellent condition when the Parks and Wildlife officials arrived. The smaller fish, the male, weighs about 3 pounds and is one of the certified Florida bass broodstock at the Tyler Fish Hatchery. As we watch these 2 fish spawn, let's consider some of the facts about largemouth bass spawning. Number 1, the females are usually larger of the 2 fish, but not always. Number 2, the males are always dominant during the spawning season regardless of the size. Number 3, the male selects the nest site. It can be almost anything that the eggs may attach to: grass, weeds, roots, or even a tree stump. In this picture, it's an astroturf mat. Number 4, the male selects 1 or occasionally more than 1 female to spawn on the nest. Number 5, most of the female injuries received during spawning are from the male encouraging her to the nest site and or to release her eggs. These injuries are caused by the male biting and or bumping her on the tail or the sides. These injuries can be anywhere from minor to severe enough to cause death. Number 6, as a female releases her eggs on the mat, the male releases sufficient sperm in the nest area to fertilize the eggs. Number 7, largemouth bass are multi-spawners, which means that it can spawn more than once a year. This pair spawned 5 times in 1988 and produced over 90,000 fry. Number 8, pre-spawning and spawning activity sometimes takes a long time and can be very stressful for both the male and female. This pair took 1 hour for pre-spawning activity and 50 minutes to spawn. Number 9, once the female has completed the spawn, the male chases her from the nest area. Then he stays with the eggs until they hatch and stays with a small fry until they reach about 3/4 to an inch in length. After they reach this length, nature takes its course and the male starts feeding on the small fry. This causes the fish to scatter throughout the lake. Number 10, during spawning, neither the male nor the female feeds. Once the female leaves the nest site, she starts feeding. The male does not start feeding again till he turns on the small fry or for some reason leaves the nest. Although spawning and nesting bass do not feed, many bass are caught at this time during some type of a activity protecting the nest or the fry. Number 11, the amount of time it takes the eggs to hatch depends on the water temperature. In this situation, where the water temperature was 71 degrees Fahrenheit, the eggs hatched in about 3.5 days. If you notice along the mat's edge, you can see where newly hatched fry have rolled off the mat. When largemouth bass first hatch, they don't have all their mouth parts. This development usually takes 1 to 3 days, again depending on the water temperature. During this period of time, they lay on the bottom and seldom rise up from the mat. But once all of the mouth parts have been developed, they must eat within 12 to 24 hours to survive. Because there's not any food in this tank, The fry must be removed and transported to a prepared rearing pond. Knowing that newly hatched fry average about 5,000 fish per ounce of volume, the fry are measured before being stocked in a pond so that the production can be predicted for future Bass Lake deliveries. When removing the fry from the show tank, the lights are turned off so that the fry will settle to the bottom. As soon as the lights are turned on again, which are necessary for the film, the fry rise up and scatter, causing difficulty in retrieving them. Notice the male approaching the hose, which is removing the fry from the tank, and how he is still protecting the fry. This is nature's way of helping this species survive, because the fry are so small they are easy prey for other fish. The hose empties into a container on the outside, causing very little stress to the small fry. Because removing the fry with a hose could take as long as an hour, an oxygen hose has been provided for the collection tank. Notice that the female stays completely out of the way to one side, because she does not have any of the instinctive parental need to protect the little ones. This gives the female an opportunity to start feeding again, so that she will have the strength to spawn again within a week or so. These small fry will be transported to a hatchery pond that has been prepared by filtering the incoming water and fertilized with the correct fertilizer to produce a suitable phytoplankton and zooplankton population. These steps are necessary to start the food chain that is necessary to produce the food for the survival of the fry. During the time period of preparation, a zooplankton sample may be collected and transported to the hatchery lab. There is counted to determine if there is sufficient population to support the bass. The pond level must be lowered to remove the fish. When the water is about 2 feet deep, a dip net is used to remove the fish into a hauling tank. This tank holds approximately 600 gallons of water. You should notice how gently the small fish are being handled. This prevents unnecessary stress that could kill them at a later date. Although a dip net can contain hundreds or even thousands of fish at a time, every effort is made to move them quickly into good, clean water. Once you stress fish, it might take as long as 15 to 21 days before any signs of the stress. This can be manifested into a bacterial and/or a fungal infection. These fish have utilized the food chain very well, and within 29 days after stocking, they have grown to 2¼ inches in length. Once the fish have been removed from the pond, they are transported to a holding facility. This facility usually consists of a long R-round tank that is supplied with sufficient amount of good water. While the fish are here, they are being measured, counted, and given the necessary time to clean out their digestive tract before being transported to a lake. Everything in their digestive system will have completed its cycle within 12 to 24 hours. If this step is omitted during transportation, the fish body waste could foul the water and cause water quality problems. It's important that the weight and numbers are recorded for pond and delivery records. The stocking request determines the number and size of a fish necessary for delivery to a public lake. All requests come through the administrative staff in Austin. The number loaded into the hauling tank for delivery depends on the weight and the distance to the lake. Once all of these factors are known, it's back to weighing the fish and returning them to the hauling tank for the trip. This trip required 52,000 2 to 3 inch largemouth bass to be stocked in Big Creek near Cooper, Texas. Since the fish that are being delivered are Lone Star Lunker production, it's necessary for you to know that a portion of these fish have been kept at the Tyler Fish Hatchery for rearing. They will be used for genetic studies in the future broodfish program. It is critical to good survival that the temperature is not changed more than 5 degrees Fahrenheit between the water temperature in the delivery tank and the lake. If there is a temperature difference, each delivery truck carries a pump so that lake water can be pumped into the hauling tank to acclimate to water temperature differences. The Lone Star Lunker production for 1988 was stocked in 3 lakes in Texas: Big Creek, northeast Texas near Cooper, Lake Decker near Austin, and Lake McKenzie in the Texas Panhandle. Here we encourage local officials to meet the delivery trucks when possible. This is an official at the town of Cooper. Because this official met the delivery truck, it gave the Texas Parks and Wildlife an opportunity to explain to the local people about fish stockings in their area lakes. Also, the news media normally gives some coverage if a local official is involved, thus providing information to others who are interested. Once the pictures have been taken and a discharge line has been connected to the delivery tank, the drain valve can be opened to release the remaining fish in the lake. The release of several 100,000 fish may not take more than 10 minutes. Because the drain pipe usually remains on the lake bottom, you can seldom see the fish that will be released in the lake. The Lone Star Lunker Program starts with collecting the big lunker from the fishermen, then transporting it to the Tyler Fish Hatchery, where an attempt is made to get it to spawn. Then the lunker is returned to its owner, and the program concludes with a 30-day display of the replicas for the year at the Lone Star Lunker Hall of Fins. It's always our desire that the fishermen will return the lunker to the lake where it was caught. To encourage this, the hatchery personnel will assist in delivering the lunker to the lake for the fishermen. Catch and release is an extremely important part of sport fishing in the state of Texas. If big fish are desired in public lakes, there has to be some catch and release because of the number of fishermen today. Also, it's understood that not all fishermen may want to participate in the release of their big fish. But if everyone keeps their big one, there soon won't be any big ones for anyone. If you catch that old big, let's handle it correctly. Let's not hold it out of the water any longer than you can hold your breath. Remember, the fish has to be in the water to breathe. Let's not handle it with dry hands. The dry hands remove the protective slime. And don't play the fish too long, because this causes stress. Just because the fish swims off from the boat doesn't mean that the fish will be alive 30 days later. Now let's consider what if you release your fish correctly. One of your children may have the thrill of catching a big fish to brag about at a later date. The Lone Star Lunker Program is headquartered at the Tyler Fish Hatchery, and in behalf of the Texas Parks and Wildlife, I thank the sport fishermen that have participated in this very successful program, and I invite you to visit us and see one of these big fish.